Satik.
So the next session will be on panel discussion on newer insulin. The moderator for this session is Dr. Satik Siddhanto, and the panelists are Dr. Professor Apurva Kumar Mukherjee and Dr. Professor Rakesh Ohay.
Rate of US corporate degree, which was granted to a sergeant of His Majesty, which was taken illegally.
Yes, Satik, please start.
Yes, Dr. Rakesh. Thank you to see you over here.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Shivendu here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me to be in this important meeting.
Shall I start?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At the very outset, I must thank the ICP API branch, a West Bengal branch, to bestow on me the opportunity to moderate a session on a newer insulin. Well, today we will discuss a panel discussion on a newer insulin, but our main focus will be on injection Ryzodeg, which is nothing but a fixed dose combination of a long-acting insulin and a short-acting insulin. So there were many questions, but due to paucity of time, we will concentrate on 6 questions only. We are really honored to have 2 stalwarts or doyens in the field of endocrinology and diabetology, Professor Apurva Mukherjee sir and Professor Rakesh Ohay sir. So I will shoot the questions one by one to you, sir. Let us wait for the technical team for the questions to arrive. My first question to Apurva Mukherjee sir. Well, high carbohydrate diet is one of the common Indian reality we encounter in a clinical practice. And this results in a higher postprandial glucose load, thereby which has its clinical implications with microvascular complications or macrovascular complications. My question to you is whether this novel co-formulation of a long-acting and short-acting insulin serve as a 2-in-1 solution for tackling high postprandial plasma glucose in addition to high fasting plasma glucose and result in achieving an earlier and durable glycemic control. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Satik, for this brilliant question. I must thank the questionnaire that has been said by you is quite brilliant. Let me tell you that we the Indians do have some dietary pattern which is much, much different from the Westerners. And it is important to realize the fact that most of our patients do dwell in the post-absorptive phase and the postprandial phase for a longer period of time in the duration of 24 hours. And thus, it is important that we tend to forget the importance of the postprandial glucose control. Though, as we have suggested, that these postprandial peaks are related to macrovascular as well as microvascular complications associated with diabetes. Let me remind you that in the authoritative bodies have recommended first insulin to be used in type 2 diabetes after failing achievement of good glycemic control is basal insulin. But in our population, there are lots of studies and lots of suggestions which have addressed the issue of initiating with postprandial glucose as well as the fasting glucose together because of the issue of lack of postprandial control in majority of our population. In the START study, if you look into the study population where the different sites of the whole country, India, have been randomly checked, and the carbohydrate consumption on an average is 67.2%. And while the patient has been declared diabetic and then have been asked in repeated exposure to the caregiver about the restriction of carbohydrate intake, the average carbohydrate intake only gone down very minimally, that is 64.2% on an average. So it is important that many of our patients do have the postprandial glucose control, which is not there. As you have rightly pointed out, that this technological advancement in the form of co-formulation, 70% of which addresses the basal state, that is the fasting glucose control, and the 30% of the Ryzodeg, that is IDEG-ASP, which is there for the control of the postprandial glucose peak. While given once daily, you give to the high consumption of the calorie in the lunch or in the dinner according to the patient's suitability, and you achieve a better control of the postprandial peak at the same time while you are addressing the fasting glucose. And this technological advancement is quite avid to the scientific knowledge of ours that we do have to address not only the fasting glucose, but also the postprandial glucose.
Thank you, sir. My next question is to Professor Rakesh Shah, sir. Whether this novel co-formulation is safe in subjects of diabetic kidney disease? What about patients with hepatic impairment? And can it be recommended in pregnancy? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Satwik, for the brilliant questions that you have framed for this panel discussion. I think very important the discussion that we are having about this novel molecule that is called the IDEG-ASP, or it's a co-formulation. Basically, what I wanted to highlight is that this is a co-formulation, means that it is different from a premixed insulin. Earlier, we used to have premixed insulins where you used to have a mixture of a NPH or a intermediate acting insulin like NPH with either a regular insulin or with, even when you had the analogs, we had aspart with NPH. So we called it as aspart. So that way we had these insulins which were designed earlier, but those were the major limitation of those was that it was one of the, the NPH component interfered with the action of the short acting insulin. Thereby there was interference between the action of these two molecules. Now in this co-formulation, the major benefit is that both of them, like you have degludec, which is a second generation long acting analog which has got a almost peakless action and a long duration of action, and it actually is much better than NPH in terms of causing less of nocturnal hypoglycemia, less of variability, and with that you are adding aspart, which is not and the best part is that each of them does not interfere with the action of the other one. So that's why that is the major advantage. So now when we're looking at whether this formulation is good in patients with hepatic or renal insufficiency, we don't have very good data with the use of this molecule itself, but we have data with the use of aspart in patients who have got renal insufficiency, moderate renal insufficiency, even severe renal insufficiency. We have good data with aspart. Similarly, we have got data with degludec also showing that it does not have any sort of change in its action even with moderate to severe renal insufficiency. So putting this together, we can say that this co-formulation also probably does not have a significant impact, significant change in its pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics even in patients with renal failure. And similarly with hepatic insufficiency also, we have similar data with both the components of the co-formulation, but we don't have good data as yet with IDEG-ASP also, but we can assume that this holds good for the co-formulation also, because by and large what we are seeing in most of the studies are that they are not interfering with each other's actions. Now the third part of the question was regarding pregnancy. So pregnancy, we have data, we have studies which have looked at the use of aspart in pregnancy, and that has been shown to have benefits over the use of regular insulin also, because better control of postprandial hyperglycemia, and even the newer analog which is fast acting aspart or FIASP is also sort of studied in pregnancy, but degludec has as such not been studied adequately in pregnancy. So we don't know about degludec, but the short acting the rapid acting analog, that is aspart, which is there in that in the co-formulation, has been studied. So the co-formulation also itself is not a very good option in pregnancy, but in renal and hepatic insufficiency it can be used safely. So that's what I would like to say about this.
Thank you, sir. My next question to Professor Mukherjee, sir: whether all groups of oral anti-hypoglycemic agents can be co-prescribed with this co-formulation, and if we prescribe, does it help in decreasing the total daily dosage of insulin, which can do wonders to the patient, not just from the financial point of view, but also from the mental psychological point of view? Over to you, sir.
What is important, that while you have started Rhizodec, IDEG-ASP once daily, you can give prepodial oral drugs, some other forms. As we have rightly learned over all these decades, that once daily insulin, while given to a patient with type 2 diabetics, even in the form of Rhizodec, you may need other oral agents. And the use of metformin Pioglitazone very low dose, though there are certain data to suggest that addition of pioglitazone with exogenous insulin do have some increased fluid retention and the body weight increment, but judicious small dose application might serve as a purpose of reducing exogenous insulin requirement. But while you are prescribing twice daily, it is useful to avoid the sulfonylurea or meglitide group of drugs. TP4 inhibitors need to also to be reduced or stopped. And where there is indication for the SGLT2 inhibitor class of drugs, particularly while there is coexistent cardiovascular disease or some renal insufficiency or even in the stage of microalbuminuria, now we know that SGLT2 inhibitors can also give rise to some salutary benefit in reducing the body weight, reducing the dose of insulin. To answer your question, all groups can be given with judicious adjustment, but while you are using twice daily idagasp, it is prudent not to use the sulfonylurea or meglitide group of drugs, and TP4 inhibitors ought also to be used with caution, because while you are using these drugs, you might have some increased chance of hypoglycemia, but while you reduce the insulin dosage suitably over a period of time, you might get excess benefits. But once daily idagasp while given, you can give prepodial dose of some sulfonylurea low dose or some meglitide if you find suitable. So briefly, twice daily, you don't use the secretagogues except DB4 inhibitors, which are secretagogues with a safety valve. But we need to play with other anti-diabetic oral drugs, which helps in reducing the exogenous insulin dosage, at the same time achieving some extra glycemic benefits as well.
Thank you, sir. My next question to Rakesh Shah, sir. Whether in patients uncontrolled on multiple OADs, just like glargine, injection glargine is recommended by most of the august bodies, whether we can initiate with this novel molecule? If yes, what should be the starting dose and when we should be administered? We learned that glargine can be administered at bedtime, whether it should be administered at bedtime or with the largest meal or something like that. Over to you, sir.
So basically, this is a very interesting question that you've given, Dr. Satwik, that whether we can use this just as we use when we are speaking about insulin initiation, we speak of basal insulin to be given as a single dose at bedtime along with the other OADs that are going on. So when patients are failing on OADs, so I'll just show you one good study which has looked at this, address this question. So this study was trying to look at insulin initiation with idagasp versus glargine. So these are patients who were type 2 diabetic patients, not controlled with OADs. Their OADs were continued and they were added. They were either randomized to receive glargine or idagasp. What was done was idagasp was given before the major meal of the day, and glargine was given at bedtime. And what the doses were titrated so as to keep the fasting in the normal range. And what was seen after 6 months of follow-up was that there was superior HbA1c reduction with the use of idagasp, that is the co-formulation which you are speaking about, as compared to glargine, and also the fast. I mean, as we said, the titration was for the fasting glucose. So fasting glucose were absolutely similar in both the groups, but the reduction in HbA1c is better with the co-formulation. And then if you look at the postprandial glucose, which is very important, as Professor Mukherjee also just now highlighted in his in the earlier discussion, that postprandial control is very important in our patients, and that has significant implications on the development of various complications in the macrovascular disease. And what we see is that the postprandial glucose control was much better with the use of the co-formulation as compared to glargine alone, and there was lower risk of hypoglycemia. 27% lower risk of hypoglycemia as compared to glargine. So all in all, what we see is that and also about 43% of patients reach the target of less than 7 HbA1c with the addition of the idagasp as compared to the use of glargine, and which means that with idagasp 72% of more patients achieve their targets without experiencing hypoglycemia as compared to glargine. So clearly this study shows that this molecule or this co-formulation can be used as an initial insulin therapy in patients who are not controlled on OADs. And if you are using it, how much dose should be used? You can start with 10 units a day, and when do you give it? You give it prior to the largest meal, because you have got a component of rapid acting insulin in that, and that covers the major meal of the day, and so therefore it has to be given before the major meal of the day.
Thank you, sir. We are now moving on to the penultimate question of today's panel discussion. My question to Apurva Mukherjee sir is, what about insulin intensification? What is the advantage of this novel molecule twice daily dose over the basal bolus insulin regimen? And if we do so, how to titrate the dosage for a total or a holistic control of blood glucose?
Yes, Saptik, this is a very brilliant question. As Professor Shah was answering about the initiation, it is also very important for all of us to learn about insulin intensification, as that is routinely the situation in all of our patients. As you have just learned that the glargine which may be given in the bedtime, this Idegas, because of the component of rapid acting analog associated with insulin degludec, we need to be given with a major meal, where the 30% of the rapid acting analog will take care of the meal related hyperglycemia. But while you are intensifying, it is important that there is a very good study, step-by-step study, where basal insulin was given Idegas once daily. And this has been intensified, and this step-by-step study has showed us that the basal bolus insulin was compared with twice daily Idegas. Initially, 26 weeks of the step-by-step study, it was once daily Idegas and once daily basal insulin. But while the patient is not achieving good glycemic control and faltering with postprandial glucose achievement, you need to step up the basal insulin in the form of basal bolus insulin, and Idegas was given twice daily. Now the titration is usually dependent upon the fasting glucose. We need to check the fasting glucose. If it is between 70 to 130 milligram per deciliter, while you are giving twice daily Idegas, it has been shown that this Idegas thrice 3-day measurement and taking a mean, you can identify whether you have to increase the dose or decrease the dose. 2 units increment or 2 units decrement if the fasting blood sugar is more than, fasting plasma glucose is more than 130 or less than 70. In case of less than 70, the mean is not taken. Immediately 2 units is reduced with a view to avoid hypoglycemia. And this step-by-step study has shown us that Idegas twice daily compared to basal bolus insulin fared extremely well. And what is important in that particular study, that the achievement of HbA1c was identical in both the groups. At the same time, the incidences of hypoglycemia was much less with the basal bolus insulin as compared to basal bolus insulin. It was reduced by 40%. And what is another important issue is the weight gain was much less in the Idegas twice daily group as compared to basal bolus insulin. And the monitoring, while you are administering basal bolus insulin, monitoring and the prick requirement may be 4 times a day, whereas in Idegas twice daily it is only two times a day. So all these, even if you calculate the cost effectiveness, the cost of Idegas twice daily, sometime in majority of the 67% of the individuals participating in step-by-step study had been shown to have a cost benefit over basal bolus insulin. So prick is less, monitoring is less, weight gain is less, hypoglycemia is less. So, and the HbA1c attainment is identical. So, and the titration should be mediated through fasting glucose measurement only. And the total control of postprandial and fasting glucose is extremely comparable with the basal bolus regimen. So by step-by-step study, we have learned that after 26 weeks of initiation, we now intensify and go to Idegas twice daily, and basal insulin is upgraded with basal bolus insulin regimen and found to have a similar HbA1c control. But as I have just mentioned, so many advantages are there, and we need to titrate the dosage effectively.
Thank you, sir. We are now moving on to the last and probably the most pertinent question. Sir, if after today's illuminating discussion by you all, if somebody wants to shift their patient from a premixed insulin or a basal bolus insulin to this novel preparation, how will we do and how will we calculate the dose?
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. For this important question. So, yeah, because this question is, as you said, is a very important question, because we are trying to understand that if you are going to shift, how do you do that? So this slide basically summarizes that. I wanted to use this slide just to show that, there could be different options when you're switching. It could be either when you're switching from somebody who's on basal only insulin, or on a premixed insulin which is used once a day. Then what you do, that is somebody is using 15 units of glargine or 16 units of glargine, you will use the same dose of Idegas, and that too once a day. So that is how you would do it for somebody who's on once a day insulin, basal insulin or premixed insulin, the same dose to be used, 1:1. And if you're having a patient who's on twice a day insulin, that is either a premixed insulin or a basal insulin being on twice a day, again you can do this shift to twice a day with the same ratio. Now the major problem comes with problem means in the sense where you need to individualize, where you need to think over and individualize, is where you're looking at basal bolus therapy. Then what you have to do is you have to look at the total basal insulin dose that is being used, and then you have to also look at what is the prandial component that is being used, and probably make it into 2 doses of Idegas, and that you'll have to individualize based on the patient's requirement, and then you may need to adjust that dose. And sometimes when you're using this 2 doses of Ideg, as we may also use a dose of aspart in the afternoon can be used, so that however, makes it a little better for the patient. Instead of having 4 doses of the 3 doses of rapid acting analog and 1 dose of a basal insulin, can be at 2 or 3 doses of with the Idegas. But again here you need to individualize the requirement, you need to calculate the requirement and see how you have to adjust that. But for others who are on once daily basal insulin or a premixed insulin which is twice a day, they can be easily shifted on the same unit to unit basis. They can be shifted on the same dose, and that works very well for the Idegas.
Thank you, sir. Can we?
Yeah.
So we have had an illuminating lecture and panel discussion. Just to summarize, so the indications of Idesa, as we can conclude from today's illuminating panel discussion, that it can be the start and stay therapy for patients uncontrolled on multiple OADs, patients uncontrolled on basal OADs or premixed insulin, or uncontrolled on basal bolus therapy. And the most pertinent patient types where we can use are type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, elderly with diabetics, elderly with patients of diabetic kidney disease, irrespective of the stage of disease or hepatic impairment, type 2 diabetes mellitus with other comorbidities. And this has compelled thus RSSDI and ESI recommendations 2020 to include Idegas as a choice of insulin initiation, and insulin therapy should be considered in all patients failing to achieve the glycemic targets despite 3 oral agents. So to conclude, nearly 4 out of 5 people of diabetics in India are uncontrolled, and this demands a timely insulin initiation, which is the need of the hour. High carbohydrate diet resulting in high postprandial plasma glucose is a common Indian reality, and Idegas, that is a novel combination of short-acting and long-acting insulin, remains a prudent choice in type 2 diabetes mellitus for total or holistic control of fasting plasma glucose as well as postprandial plasma glucose. Evidence clearly support the use of once daily Idegas for insulin initiation, as it offers superior glycemic control, not only without compromising on the safety compared to once daily basal insulin. IDEGASP offers the convenience of a single device as a co-formulation, providing a similar control with improved safety as compared to the most cumbersome basal bolus insulin regimen. In routine clinical care, IDEGASP is definitely a simple, safe, and an effective solution for initiating insulin therapy and maintaining the same on patients living with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Thank you all for your patient hearing.